Folks, these are people for whom there are no consequences, and yet they keep going higher and higher in our government. These are people openly flaunting the system while we ordinary Americans are held to a completely different standard.
I got a question for you. Riding down the road, the speed limit says 55. I'm doing 65. Have I broke the law?
You'd have to ask the Highway Patrol. They would likely write you a ticket. They would likely write you a ticket for that.
I'm not sure. I went to a small little small law school. We taught the law. Harvard, I'm not sure anymore. Did you break the law or not? 65 and a 55. My dad was a state trooper. Be careful with your answer. You're under oath.
As I said before, you would get a ticket for that.
Okay, so you broke the law.
You would be cited for that. That would be considered an offense.
In this, the amazingness of this.
Exposed emails continues to intrigue. Welcome to my chambers. The hack on the Democratic National Committee, which exposed emails, continues to intrigue. The emails which were exposed by WikiLeaks revealed a very strong bias on the part of high officials in the Democratic Party for the candidacy of Hillary Clinton, and a very strong prejudice on the part of the same people towards the candidacy of Bernie Sanders, even though such bias and prejudice had been alleged by Sanders and denied by the Democratic National Committee. It even resulted in the resignation of the chair of the committee as a result of a unanimous request from the members of the committee and the intervention of President Obama himself. But in order to get this issue off the front page, the DNC and the Clinton campaign decided to blame, of all people, the Russians. They accused Vladimir Putin of being in cahoots with Donald Trump and having his intelligence services hack the DNC to expose emails to make Mrs. Clinton look bad and thereby benefit Donald Trump. But the Russians had nothing to do with it, because this week, a 30-year veteran of the National Security Administration, the NSA, the domestic spies who spy on all of us all the time, the former high-ranking NSA official who developed the software that the NSA now uses, which allows it to capture not just metadata but content of every telephone call, text message, email in the United States of every person in the United States of America. This individual said, guess what? The NSA hacked the Democratic National Committee. Why would the NSA hack the DNC? Because the members of the intelligence community simply do not want Hillary Clinton to be president of the United States, because she doesn't know how to handle state secrets, because some of the state secrets that she revealed use the proper true names of American intelligence agents operating undercover in the Middle East. When they lost their covers, they ran for their lives, and some of them didn't run fast enough and lost their lives. It's very telling that the intelligence community would feel so strongly about Mrs. Clinton that they would attempt to sabotage her campaign to prevent her from becoming their boss. It's also telling that these folks would break American law in order to, in their view, save it. Welcome to my chambers.
Basically what he said is she did everything short of a crime and then lied about it all the way.
While she was being investigated. I don't know if she lied to him, but she repeatedly told the American people a bunch of nonsense.
Well, that's true.
More than 16 months ago, Americans learned that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was conducting the business of the U.S. government from a private email account managed on her own private email server kept at her home in New York, outside the purview of the federal government or its controls for classified communications, immediately sparking concerns that the nation's top diplomat may have compromised America's top secrets. Mrs. Clinton downplayed it all, and her top aides dismissed the people's criticism of her actions as, quote, absurd. The FBI launched an investigation, and hours ago, FBI Director James Comey announced his agency's findings. For example, Mrs. Clinton argued right from the get-go that she never sent or received any classified information on her personal email. Watch.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified materials.
I never sent or received any classified material. They are retroactively classifying it.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
I have absolute confidence that everything that could be in any way connected to work is now in the possession of the State Department.
The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to State in 2014.
Thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two.
Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department. And she also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain.
It was allowed, and the rules have been clarified since I left about the practice.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system. They were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
It had numerous safeguards. It was on property guarded by the Secret Service, and there were no security breaches.
We assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
Fox News senior political analyst Britt Hume. Britt, great to see you. Your thoughts?
Thanks, Megan. Well, you did a very good job there of setting forth just how Comey's statement just blew up this tissue of lies that has been told by Secretary Clinton throughout this case, ending, of course, with his conclusion that while, as he put it at one point, there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information. Then he goes on to say, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. So he didn't really find necessarily that she hadn't committed a crime. He just said that he didn't think it was a crime that should be prosecuted, which is a different matter entirely, and goes well beyond what one might have expected an FBI director to recommend to the department, perhaps, or to say publicly, which makes this whole procedure today more than a little unusual, Megan, because if you think about it, if he didn't think it was worth prosecuting, all he had to do, when you think about it, is simply turn over his findings to the Department of Justice and leave it to the Department of Justice to make what he described as a prosecutive decision. He declined to do that. In fact, I think what he probably thought, Megan, was that if he did that, there wasn't any chance that the department would bring charges. And if you start thinking about the Obama Justice Department, with Loretta Lynch at its head, formerly headed by Eric Holder, the most credible person in the whole place that anybody's ever heard of is James Comey of the FBI. And it's not too much to suggest here, it seems to me, Megan, that he has placed his credibility at the service of what he knew would be the ultimate outcome of this case once it was referred to the Justice Department. And in that sense, he did this administration, this Attorney General, and perhaps it's not unfair to say Hillary Clinton a very great service, although, as I say, he did blow up her whole network of lies that she told over time.
History for all the wrong reasons. The presumptive Democratic nominee for president grilled by the FBI. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. And now my opening statement. For the first time in the history of this great nation, the person about to become the Democratic nominee for President of the United States was interrogated by the FBI today as part of an ongoing year-long federal criminal investigation. This within days of the target's husband, Bill Clinton, meeting privately on board a parked private jet with the Attorney General of the United States, who has his wife's future in her hands, deciding whether that wife should be indicted for engaging in criminal activity. That Loretta Lynch, the chief law enforcement officer of this country, the head of the United States Department of Justice, that citadel of integrity and impartiality, would violate her own Justice Department rules on ethical conduct, specifically Rule 14, would not only talk for 30 minutes in a private, unmemorialized meeting, but for a local reporter, and then not recuse herself from the criminal investigation brings shame on all the great United States attorneys who work tirelessly, ethically, doing their jobs without fear or favor.
And again, I'm just talking about the appearance of what the average Joe sees. You yourself were appointed by President Clinton in the 90s to be U.S. Attorney. Your current boss has said on more than one occasion before Comey's recommendation that Hillary Clinton having top secret information on her email did not damage national security. You, of course, met with Bill Clinton privately just days before the decision was announced not to go ahead with this prosecution. Of course, your current boss has endorsed Secretary Clinton to be the next president of the United States. And in fact, they had a campaign trip scheduled, I believe, the afternoon that Director Comey announced his findings. And so with all of that surrounding, there's a lot of people that have concerns about whether this decision was made with proper integrity. And basically what you've told us today is, I'm not going to talk about it, I'm not going to justify it, it is what it is. And that falls very short, I think, of what a lot of people want. And I've noticed that you have been willing to opine on other instances when it suits you. I mean, for example, in Orlando in June, you said the most effective response to terror is compassion, it's unity, and it's love. You were interjecting on that. You said after the San Bernardino attack that your greatest fear was the rise of anti-Muslim rhetoric. That was something that you volunteered. You discussed the possibility in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee in March of bringing civil actions against people who denied climate change. And of course, you also discussed taking potential criminal action against those engaged in anti-Muslim speech. And so I want to ask you whether your hear no evil, see no evil performance today, if somebody honestly just looks at what happened here and thinks that if they were a junior officer in the Navy or a mid-level official in the federal bureaucracy and they treated classified information like this, that they would have been held accountable, and they look to see all these circumstances, and then here you are to justify as the head of the department, and you're offering them nothing.
But I've spent the last 4 hours listening to basically the Attorney General of the United States not willing to make a concrete statement of law, to not be willing to say that when given the opportunity by a colleague of mine, who made the decision in this case. I understand Director Comey stepped up and said, here's the decision we recommend. And all you have been willing to say is, well, we just accepted the team recommendation. When given the opportunity to say, do you accept this decision, you've never answered directly that you own this decision. Do you own this decision?
Congressman, as I've stated, I made the decision, and I do accept. I did accept it, and therefore I made the decision to accept that recommendation. That was the action that I took.
The problem that we're having here, though, is you took a decision because you had to. Your own words just a few moments ago, that the meeting on the tarmac led you to do something. That was your exact words. It led me to do something, and that was basically recuse yourself, but didn't recuse yourself. You just said, I'm going to accept what they tell me. It's no wonder the optics of this so bad. I've never agreed probably with David Axelrod in my life, but the optics of this are terrible, and you today have made it worse. And as also a member of the military who just got through with my drill duty this weekend, you have basically, to me, offended every military member here who handles classified information, who does so with their training, and you've basically said, well, it depends. When you've been asked many times, you said, I'm not going to talk about this. The day after, you said, well, I'm just going to have to accept whatever they tell me because you're not going to do any investigation. You're not going to put the Attorney General, the top law enforcement officer's stamp of approval on it. You said, I'm just going to accept whatever they give me. Did you at least read anything before you had a press conference the next day? Did you at least look at the testimony?
You know, every small-town prosecutor in this country would not only refuse to speak with the spouse of a target, but would refuse to even be in their company to avoid the appearance of impropriety. This is all smoke and mirrors, folks. So what's going on in this country? We have a president who lies about everything from a peaceful protest that got out of hand in Benghazi to you can keep your health care and your doctor.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. And you can keep your plan if you are satisfied with it. If you like the plan you have, you can keep it. If you like your plan and you like your doctor, you won't have to do a thing. You keep your plan. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. If you've got health insurance, you can keep it. If you like your health care plan, you will keep your plan. If you've got health insurance, you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan. If you have insurance that you like, then you will be able to keep that insurance. If you like your doctor or health care plan, you can keep it. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you like your private health insurance plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you like your private health insurance plan, you can keep it. If you want to keep the health insurance you got, you can keep it. If you like the insurance plan you have now, you can keep it. And if you like your insurance plan, you will keep it. So if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your plan, keep your plan. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you're happy with what you got, nobody's changing.
A Secretary of State who lies about everything from that despicable video causing the deaths of an ambassador and 3 Americans to having her own server for convenience. Now, I've spent over 3 decades in the criminal justice system as a prosecutor, an elected judge, and an elected district attorney. I have investigated, arrested, indicted, prosecuted, and sentenced criminals for murders, rapes, and violent felonies, and every one of them is entitled to the presumption of innocence. But is everyone entitled to the presumption of truthfulness? Are these people entitled to a presumption of truthfulness? The answer is absolutely not.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
Volunteer information. Indeed, I did have a relationship with Ms. Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. It constituted a critical lapse in judgment and a personal failure on my part for which I am solely and completely responsible.
There is no way Bill Clinton is entitled to a presumption of truthfulness. His talking to the Attorney General when he himself might be a target or at least a witness in the worldwide money laundering operation called the Clinton Foundation, parading as a not-for-profit charity, would be bad enough if we had reason to believe they were saying the truth. But with Bill Clinton, there can be no presumption of truthfulness. There is serial evidence to the contrary. Bill Clinton was impeached for perjury and obstruction of justice. He escaped indictment by accepting a penalty short of criminal conviction, including an unequivocal admission of lying under oath by surrendering his law license. As a result, he was disbarred. Hillary Clinton has been investigated for everything from the Rose Law Firm to Whitewater to cattle futures to missing files, Travelgate, etc. So what should Americans reasonably believe? Nothing that they say. The Clintons repeatedly violate our standard of truthfulness and honesty. So should these people be trusted to run our country? Should Hillary Clinton be trusted to run for President of the United States? Should the Clintons be trusted to go back into the White House? The answer is positively, absolutely, undeniably, unquestionably no.
Hillary Clinton meeting with top U.S. intelligence officials at an FBI office just north of New York City, getting her first national security briefing as the Democratic presidential nominee this morning. Yesterday's classified briefing caps a week of questions about her email and evidence of pay for play as we learn about direct connections between the Clinton Foundation and top officials at the State Department. We're going to be talking about that this morning. Joining us right now is former New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, good to see you.
I find the briefing her extraordinary. She was found to be extremely careless in the handling of national security information. And now we're briefing her on national security information. You know, she wouldn't pass an FBI background check for an assistant U.S. attorney's position. If I were a U.S. attorney like I was 20 years ago, and she was a candidate for U.S. attorney, I couldn't hire her.
And President Obama made a point of saying, oh, you know, Trump needs to make sure to keep everything secret in these national briefings. And we know what just took place with Hillary Clinton. And he made no mention of Hillary Clinton.
She exposed literally thousands and thousands and thousands of our most sensitive secrets to our enemies, or our frenemies, however you want to describe it. Comey made that very clear when he just about said that they must have been hacked. And anyone who knows anything about cybersecurity, and I do that for a living, knows that it would be, to me, a surprise if the Chinese and the Russians, and maybe even some of our friends, don't have most of those emails. Clinton Foundation is, to me, equivalent to Watergate and the Teapot Dome scandal in terms of scope. You have just read Clinton Cash and then do a little independent research, and you will see we're talking about at least 12 RICO predicates. This is a racketeering enterprise. The Clinton Foundation is where you paid the money. The State Department is where you got your access. And you didn't just get access. You got favors. You got the sale of uranium. That's a quid pro quo. You got a meeting with the American ambassador to Lebanon. That's a quid pro quo.
Bahrain.
The exact same thing with UBS. You put $130 million in, and you get her intervening with the Internal Revenue Service to go easy on UBS.
Wow.
That, to me, old prosecutor that I was, we used to call that in the old days, maybe it doesn't exist anymore, bribery. And I put RICO cases together, racketeering cases together, on far less than that.
Well, when you look at the timing of it, like, for example, the uranium deal, it was right then that then the Clinton Foundation got this money, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Which also, by the way...
And then Bill Clinton got $600,000 for a speech.
Which undermined our national security. And puts us in jeopardy.
Is that resonating with voters, though?
I believe it's death by a thousand cuts. I think there's so much now that even the most loyal Hillary people and the people who are worried about Trump have to see that this woman, she handled the State Department in a way that it was a racketeering enterprise.
Well, we know that 50% of her meetings were with donors. So you know how to get a meeting with the Secretary of State.
They just happened to nominate, on the other side, the biggest liar of all.
Among the victims of our late ambassador, Chris Stevens, I mean, what she did with him was absolutely horrible. He was left helpless to die as Hillary Clinton soundly slept in her bed. That's right. When the phone rang, as per the commercial, at 3 o'clock in the morning, Hillary Clinton was sleeping. Ambassador Stevens and his staff in Libya made hundreds and hundreds of requests for security. They were desperate. They needed help. Hillary Clinton's State Department refused them all. She started the war that put them in Libya, denied him the security he asked for, then left him there to die. To cover her tracks, Hillary lied about the video being the cause of death, the famous video. All a lie, another Hillary lie. Here's what one of the victims' mother had to say. I want the whole world to know it. She lied to my face. And you know, this person cannot be president. She cannot be president.
So, I mean, Bill Clinton the man is a perjurer. He perjures under oath. I mean, the man was impeached for perjury. And it's not just for one thing. It's repeatedly in depositions. It's in grand juries. I mean, this is someone who is not honest. Someone who was the attorney general who knew that it was unethical. And shame on Loretta Lynch for not throwing him off that plane. And it just tells me the whole lot of them are a bunch of sleazy, slimy politicians.
General investigation.
Who is she going to answer to? Who is she going to? This woman should not only recuse herself, she should resign. Because what she has done to the American public's faith in the criminal justice system, she's totally destroyed it. For Law and Justice, Chief Counsel Jay Sekulow. All right, Jay, thanks for being with us tonight. What do you make of this latest 3.5-hour voluntary interview with the FBI?
Yeah, voluntary interview, because if she didn't volunteer, they were going to subpoena her. Look, it's exactly what you said, Judge. This is the last person you interview. I've been involved in prosecutions. You have too. The last person you interview is who? The target. That's exactly what you said. That's what's the situation here. She's the target. So she's the last one interviewed. But the outrage of this to the American people should be the rule of law has been completely sabotaged here. And what about those FBI agents who have been working on this case for a year to find out that days before the target of the investigation is interviewed by the FBI, the Department of Justice, her husband gets on the airplane owned by the United States Department of Justice and has a private conversation with the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America, the Attorney General. So I'm with you. We're past recusal. She needs to resign. She needs to. I still say at the end of the day, because those emails went from Hillary Clinton on the private email server to the President of the United States, an indictment not likely, but this situation with the Attorney General casts such a shadow on it that if the FBI makes that recommendation in a criminal reference letter to the Department of Justice and they don't prosecute, I cannot even imagine what the fallout's going to be.
I mean, this, to me, as someone who has grown up in law enforcement, I am outraged at what I see. I am outraged at what I see. Crime after crime after crime after crime after crime after crime. These are not just unusual things that she did. These are not just stupid things that she did. These are not just accidental things that she did. This is a woman who has committed numerous serious federal felonies. She has lied under oath. She has lied to the public, and I have no doubt she lied to the FBI. She exposed to all of our enemies some of the most secret information that we possess, which is the reason why it's redacted now. And even a senator like Senator Sessions can't get to see it because it's so secret. She exposed that on her server for China, for Russia, for Iran, for Al-Qaeda, for ISIS, or for any good hacker to get. And she put the lives of American operatives in jeopardy by doing that.
Very rarely in history do people get the opportunity to vote for true, real, profound change. I would venture to say this is an opportunity that's not even just once in a lifetime opportunity. This is the kind of opportunity that only comes once in many hundreds of years. And it's important, it's crucially important that every morning we wake up, we're cognizant of just how historic and how rare this opportunity is. Because folks, it's not going to come again. I mean, we have been betrayed and let down by politicians year after year after year after year after year. And you hear the same promises, oh, well, we're going to secure the border. Does the border ever get secured, folks? No. They say, oh, well, we're going to bring back our manufacturing jobs, but do those jobs ever come back? They say they're going to clean up D.C. and kick out the special interests. Do the special interests ever go? After 8 years of Obama, the special interests are more powerful than ever. The gap between the rich and poor is wider than ever. The control of Wall Street is greater than ever. And the ability of everyday people to control their own affairs is less than it has ever been.